Afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this Immersive showcase. So some of the most exciting projects that are underway in the United Kingdom. I just want to give you a bit of orientation. So it says pitch. It's more lightning talks, really. And by lightning, this is just by way of a reminder to our participants. When we mean lightning, when that turns to 5 minutes, you will be belled off in a traditional British fashion. I just want also to orient you, some of you have been trying the demos. Demos are going to carry on as we're talking, although not where possibly when the people who are demoing are also talking themselves. So just to orient you, we have Professor Kate Wellham over there. So those of you who've always wanted to go thousands of years back in time in VR, we have Immersive Avebury. Which, for those of you who aren't British, assuming there's anybody here who isn't British, Avebury is, of course, the finest Neolithic monument in the Stonehenge World Heritage Site, much preferable to its bouncy castle neighbour. We've got Professor Steve Love from Glasgow School of Art, or SimVis, as I learned to call it earlier on, the SimVis School at Glasgow School of Art, with a really remarkable piece that you must try. Which features, centres around an object that was damaged in the first fire of Glasgow School of Art, and obviously, unfortunately, there was a second fire, which now no longer exists, except in Steve's remarkable VR piece. Ian Hambleton, over there from Maze Theory, is making people jump and shriek with a really interesting piece using Doctor Who and it's Frightening Weeping Angels, and Ian will be talking a little bit later about, I'm not revealing to you all what he's doing next, unless he's feeling particularly kind of punchy at that point in the talk. We've got James Cook, Dr. James Cook, who can also take you back into the past, but this is an auditory past, so it's musical experiences in all environments. We've got Elliot Hall from King's Digital Lab, who is brilliantly wearing a lab coat for reasons that will become apparent, both in the talk and in the demo should you do it. So Ella will be talking to us a little bit later about Ghost Hunt and encouraging you to try it. We have, not quite at the moment, but later on we'll have Sol Rogers and the Rewind team, and you can experience the front row experience that they recently did for a 5G enabled fashion show with Magic Leap. And then we've also got Donna for XR Circus. You will notice there is no actual circus in the room, which we did think about, but Donna's got really interesting, not so much a demo, more a kind of state of mind approach to how you can extend circus through both an immersive kind of research process and by strapping cameras to performers as they're doing circus. So that's do try all the demos. They're all really exciting, and then we'll run through the lightning talks. But first, I would just like to I'd like to introduce two colleagues who were all almost, it seems, working towards a coordinated kind of UK strategy to develop our immersive capabilities. So Francis Rennickers from the Arts Council will come up and tell you the role of the arts in this field as we see it. Thank you, Andrew.
Hello everybody, I'm Francis Rennickers. I'm the Executive Director of Enterprise Innovation at Arts Council England. And my principal job there is to help the sector bring in the resources that they need to deliver their missions, and to help them make sure they use those resources effectively and efficiently. In the vernacular, we talk about more dosh, better spend. And so that's kind of what we're about. And as part of that, we see the value and possibility of the immersive space. And we see that for the future of arts and culture, it's going to be pretty important. And why do we think that? We think it's going to be a great way to get new and different product to new and different audiences. So perhaps people who don't engage specifically much with the arts and culture, and we think this is a space that will be very valuable to us for that. However, it's self-evident that this is not something that we can kind of do on our own. And we need to partner with others like UKRI and Digital Catapult are doing that, and we want and intend to do more of it in the future. It kind of seems to me self-evident that it's quality and engaging content that's going to drive success in the immersive space. And the people and organisations that can help immersive companies, immersive products do that are the sorts of artists and organisations that we fund. Not exclusively, of course, but they're the sorts of people we think immersive technology should be working with. Just want to touch on Creative XR. It's a program we're running at the moment in collaboration with Digital Capital. Becky's going to talk about the actual program. But for me, it's a kind of interesting example of the value of partnership outside the partnership. So what we've been exposed to by working with Digital Capital is a different way of working. For example, pitching like this, not something the Arts Council does traditionally. And we can see how valuable it is to work with partners like that. And we suspect that some of those things will affect us in our core product when we make grants and things. So that's why the Arts Council's here. I'm really looking forward to seeing the pitches. I love the bell thing, it's great. And good luck with it. Thank you very much.
Excellent, thank you, Francis. Hello, I'm Jeremy Silver, I'm the CEO of Digital Catapult, as it says up there. We're very involved with all of this. The Catapult is an accelerator for business, so we are focused on working with early stage companies and with scale-up businesses, and also with traditional businesses, trying to encourage them to adopt and accelerate their use of advanced digital technology. So we run programs in machine learning and artificial intelligence, we run programs in 5G and future networks and the Internet of Things, and we run a big program in the immersive space around VR, AR, haptics, and all the things that go with it. So to have a day like this here, I think is really important because it, in a way, highlights how much activity there is going on in the UK at the moment. And Francis mentioned the Creative XR program that Becky's going to tell you more about in a minute. Andrew is running Audience of the Future, which most of you here know is a £33 million public investment in immersive tech in the UK. And this is, I think, probably an unprecedented level of activity, of stimulus, of engagement in this space, which is sending a message out, not just to existing production companies and content creators, many of whom illustrious folk are represented here in the room today, but actually to the market. Because we're in a really weird place with this technology. You know, we're seeing this level of input, seeing this level of investment coming from the public sector. But the fact is that the sector itself hardly yet exists in any way that you would describe a real market to exist. So the investment that we've seen in hardware continues, but in the last year and a half, some would say there's been a VR winter, is the way it's described in Silicon Valley at the moment. The level of investment has declined because there's been a lack of confidence. And so what this expression of interest and activity and all of these examples of incredible, dynamic, imaginative thinking, I mean, putting that all into practice in really interesting environments and creating really interesting experiences is a real vote of confidence that says, look, we think there is something here. And it may have slowed down right now, and we know this stuff goes in waves, but that doesn't mean that there's not something really important. And the fact is that we need to keep piling the investment in this. We need to encourage private investment to follow public investment. And we need to encourage traditional broadcasters and content commissioners of all kinds. And you'll see examples of all sorts of different versions and genres of the way in which immersive is being used throughout these conversations this afternoon. We've got to encourage the traditional players to believe in this new medium and to believe in the platform that immersive represents as a new way of really attracting and engaging audiences. And for us, who are looking at this from the content creation side and thinking about that aspect of things, we've got to carry on being as audacious and ambitious in what we're trying to do as we can possibly be. Because if we can prove to people that we can grab them and that we can give people an experience they can't otherwise have, and that that can be done at scale, and that hundreds of thousands of people can start to experience that, then we will create a market that will spread through the world, and then we'll find really extraordinary things will happen. And we have some way to go. We've got a lot of work to do before we get to that. And you know, when you think about the differences between the experiences we have in VR and the experiences we have in AR, the fact that we still haven't really figured out how do we use the phone to really create an experience that is of mass interest. We haven't been able to recapture, if you like, the excitement that, you know, that one moment of Pokemon Go seemed to suddenly illuminate everybody with. And that's what we've got to get back to. So ideas like that, ideas that grab as many people as that did, are the things that we're looking for. And amongst all the things that you're going to see this afternoon, I'm sure there are hundreds of germs of all of those things, and several of them may even aspire and even achieve that kind of level. And that's what we hope is going to happen for them. So I hope you enjoy it all. I hope you find it interesting. And I hope that in the process, you also think about how you take whatever it is you're doing and take that up to the next level and take this whole thing forward. So thank you very much.
Right, so lightning talks time. So as far as we can work out, we've got to get through history, performance, games, ghosts, dinosaurs, smart cities, data, impossible architecture, disruptive platforms, and robots in the next 11 talks. The point of everybody doing these talks is a lot of this is work in progress. So the idea is we want to expose things not when they're finished, but when people are still working on them, so that they can gather. They're open for partnerships, funding partners, co-producers, people who've got ideas to contribute. So rather than just waiting until things are finished. And to start us off, Becky Gregory-Clark from the Catapult is going to talk to us about Creative XR, and I'm going to take my bell.
Okay, hi everybody. My name is Becky Gregory-Clark. I'm the head of technology for Immersive at Digital Catapult. I'm going to talk to you today about Creative XR, which is a program, content acceleration program that we run. But I'm also really happy to be here and helping support UKRI and British Underground Arts Council on this event today. In a nutshell, Jeremy's already covered it really, but if you haven't heard of us, Digital Catapult is UK government-backed tech accelerator and R&D hub, and we work with companies of all different kinds to help them use advanced digital tech. And Immersive is my area, and I'm going to talk to you about a program that converges in that creative space. So in a nutshell, Creative XR is a content accelerator. It's aimed at helping boost the early stage development of creative arts and cultural content that uses immersive tech. So that's VR, AR, MR, haptics, and immersive sound, also a really important area as well with support. We run it as a collaboration with the Arts Council. As Francis said, I mean, we're very different organisations, but with the Arts Council's focus on artists and creative practitioners, and Digital Catapult's tech and business angle, we brought those things together to support this programme, because we think this industry really needs all of those elements right now. And why do we do this programme? Essentially, we can see the massive enthusiasm for creative practitioners to use this kind of technology. We see the enthusiasm in audiences every time we've ever done audience testing. And we know everyone agrees as an industry it will be the quality and quantity of the content that ultimately drives it forward in the future. But it's still really hard to fund and to be funded as well, because the audience isn't quite there, the business models aren't quite there. So Creative XR is hoping to address an important element of that. So the way we do that is that we really focus very much on the early stages. So this little diagram kind of expands, if you think about the sort of content innovation pipeline, everything from early content ideas, commission, production, distribution. There's challenges all the way along that. We know that there's a really big difference between an early stage idea and a really commissionable idea. That is true of any kind of media, but particularly in immersive, where the formats are so unknown and the funding is scarce, that becomes even harder. So that's where we focused this programme, around that really early stage. So the way it works is that we run an open call, we take on up to 20 companies at a time, and we put them through a 12-week programme. For companies on the programme, they benefit by, they get up to £20,000 of seed funding to make a prototype. They get access to facilities, mentors, workshops, and then they can pitch their final projects at a marketplace showcase event, try and connect them with the potential commissioners, exhibitors, distributors that they need for the next stage. And then there is an opportunity for them to potentially secure some extra funding if they can find some match funding from the industry as well at the end of the process. I'm really happy that throughout the lifetime of this programme, it's been supported by all sorts of partners and mentors from across the industry. They include people from tech organisations, media, arts and culture. It's a really important variety and really important to have that industry link. So if that sounds like any of you, I'd love to talk to you about that. We're always looking for more. To give you a brief idea of the kind of things that came out of the last cohort, we're about to start announcements to companies on the next one. There are 20 companies, I can't talk about them all, but 3 of them, the Collider by Anagram, Tracer by Pilot Theatre, and Common Ground by VR City have just been announced as part of the official Tribeca lineup. So that is a good benchmark of the kind of quality that's coming through on actually still relatively small budgets. So they're really very creative with this, but we're really proud of them for that. So we'd like to invite you to join us at the Creative XR Showcase and Market in London in autumn 2019. The date is to be confirmed, but this is a really crucial part of the programme. It's the market where you can see pictures, prototype demos, networking, one-to-one business meetings. It's after the prototypes are finished and before production. It's a really important place for the companies, but it's a brilliant forum to see some of the best creative talent coming out of the UK and to do business as well. So we're looking for content commissioners, financiers, distributors, exhibitors, festival and LBE programmers, anybody in that space who is looking for some brilliant UK talent. Well, brilliant talent in general, just please come to the UK to find it. And thank you for listening. If you're interested in that, please do get in touch. My email address is there. If you think that's too long, which it is, you can email us at hello@creativexr.co.uk. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you.
Thanks, Becky. Becky is such a pro that the bell remains unused with 5 seconds to spare on the first talk. I'm hoping that fear of the bell doesn't work throughout the whole afternoon. So, Jeremy earlier on talked about Audience of the Future, which I'm what's called the Challenge Director for, which is this big programme, UK government programme, to explore the adoption of immersive technologies within the creative industries, but from the point of view of creating the experiences that then those creative industries can gain revenues from. And we were very fortunate, I think, to convince those in power that we could spend half the money on 4 very, very big projects, with the idea of picking sectors where the opportunity for new immersive experiences and their commercial opportunities seem very high. And one of those projects is Dinosaurs and Robots. So this was our big demonstrator. It's a £6 million programme when everybody's money is all counted. John's being a bit vague at that point. Must check those that much funding. So it's a very large project which is attempting to do really, really radical new experiences that will transform what the Museum of the Future is about. So, to talk about it, I'm very pleased to introduce John Cassie, Chief Executive of Factory 42.
Thanks very much, everybody. It's a great pleasure to be here and tell you a little bit about our project. I can only tell you a little bit because we've only going a month, and as it's an innovation and research project, we've got a broad idea of where we're heading, but we don't know the final destination. But broadly, we are all about taking 2 incredibly popular subject matters and trying to find 2 new ways to tell stories and give people experiences. So our gang is a carefully selected group. So basically Factory 42, which is the company that I'm the founder of. We're an immersive content studio based in London, and what we did is we pulled together a really, really exciting group of partners. So first partners are the 2 iconic museums in London, the Natural History Museum and the Science Museum. More than 9 million people go through their doors each year. They have world-class artifacts, world-class researchers, world-class scientists, and we're going to work with them and also the Almeida Theatre, who are a small but perfectly formed UK theatre, absolutely tiny. They normally play to a house of 325 seats. However, they've got a show opening on Broadway next month. It's their 4th in the last 4 years. They're really an amazing team. We've also got the University of Exeter, who've been researching mixed reality in performance for 10 years, so they really were in the space early. Then we've got Sky, recently acquired by Comcast. massive entertainment company, Europe's largest, and a big, big and very clever marketeer as well as an entertainment group. Then we've got Magic Leap, the mixed reality platform, who obviously have launched here in the last few months. Then we have Pearson, who are a digital education company, and Into, who are one of the largest shopping centre or shopping mall groups in the UK. And really between us, what we're looking to do is get these new experiences out to as many different types of people in as many different ways as possible. The story for this began actually here about a year ago, where we were showcasing a project that David Attenborough, who I think for anybody British, they know who he is. For those of you who don't know who he is, he's somewhere between God and Father Christmas as a person. And we actually exhibited with him with a hologram of him last year. I'll give you a quick sort of flip and look at it.
2, 3. Welcome to London's Natural History Museum. This is part of the herbarium, one of the many rooms in the museum that's usually out of bounds to the public. These cupboards contain thousands of plant specimens, but today there are also some other very special objects elsewhere in the museum that for the first time ever you yourself can handle. So go ahead, pick a drawer.
And so
2,
on this,
3.
So the point of this is that it enabled us to understand that if you could take museum content and tell stories in new ways and engage new audiences in new ways. And so we're going to do this, but on steroids, not quite literally on steroids, but maybe by the end we'll need them. So we're going to take a mixed reality experience. We're combining immersive theatre, the sort of issues that you get in things like escape rooms, and also research of scientists to create new types of stories. And so we're combining a bunch of different things that we think will create something really, really remarkable. And underlying it is a mission that really has a very strong educational bit behind it. And I think this quote from Benjamin Franklin sums it up, which is, we ultimately want to be able to enable people to learn, but do it in a really fun way. So we'll be giving them some spinach, but they won't know they've had it, basically. So, and in terms of our challenges, there's a lot of things we've got to work out. There's a big technological integration challenge ahead for us. We've got to work out how you tell stories in a narrative and group way across multiple platforms. We've also got to find ways to convey this to the wider industry. So the guys at Exeter, and also with some of the researchers at the Natural History Museum, will be writing a number of reports that we will go on to share with the wider industry. And so we're a month in, and we've got a mixture of scientists, artists, researchers, directors, neuroscientists, all operating together in the room, all speaking a new language that we're trying to pull together. Everybody's getting on so far. There have been no punch-ups. The work is good, but we've got a long way to go. And I think what comes out of this will be really interesting. And then finally, really, just on the commercial model, we're developing this, but we will have flagship experiences that will exist in museums, and then we will take them into shopping centres, and then we will also have samplers through apps that people will be able to download at home. We would love to talk to you. The key things that we're interested in are commercial partnerships. Anybody else who's interested in this location-based space, investments in the wider project, and also we want to tour this. So if you're interested in bringing this international, please speak to us. The bell's about to ring.
Fantastic. Thank you, John. John wouldn't say it, but you're all invited to Dinosaurs and Robots, which will open somewhere on Exhibition Road next summer. I was going to be more cautious than that, John, so no, that's fantastic. But something that you can experience now here in South by is a project by our next speaker. So Irini Papadimitriou from Future Everything has produced and brought to South by Nana Matsuda's Everything, Every Time. So come tell us about it.
Thank you. It's great to be here. So I'm the creative director of Future Everything. We're an arts organization based in Manchester. And we are here at South by Southwest with Nana Matsuda's Everything, Every Time, which is a beautiful installation, and I know I'm biased, that is just opposite the convention center. And what it does is it says stories about Austin from like data around Austin. So please come and say hello and see the installation. So a lot of the work that we do is is about emerging technologies in the context of smart cities, but also we explore how technologies shape and change the way that we interact, that we engage with the environment, with the city, with ourselves and other people in the way that we live today. So I'm just going to give you a few examples of some of the work that we've been doing. Super Gestures, the image that you see up there by Ling Tan, was a performance and installation using wearable technology, and it was very much about giving a voice to young people about the smart city, so that they could voice their concerns, but also their ideas about what the smart city is. We work very much in participation with and collaboration with many people and organizations. Not just in UK, but also internationally. Matt Rosier, who is another artist that we've been working with the last couple of years, created another immersive installation in another city called in Macclesfield, where he took people back to the life of the 108 steps, the historical steps in Macclesfield, and invited them to look at their city from a different viewpoint. So his work is exploring heritage and histories. But we're not only working in the UK, we do tell stories and collaborate with people in other cities, like here in Austin, but this was from a big festival that we ran in Singapore a few years back in 2015 called Signals of Tomorrow, and we kind of brought artists but also engaged with the government there and created a playful way to experience the city. And what you see up on the slides is from the Halo Post lamp, an immersive and engaging kind of installation across the city where people could talk to objects in the city. But we also work with, and we are interested in environmental issues and climate, etc., and we engage with cities in that perspective as well. So Positively Charged is a project that we did with Kasia Molga, which was exploring the city as a huge energy consumption machine, and how we as citizens are kind of activating, but how we are kind of consume energy, and how we can work together to help run cities. And just a couple of more final examples, again within the context of working with the environment. By the Code of Soil is a brand new project that we have right now with Kasia Molga and Scanner and the Grow Observatory, and it uses data from soil sensors, moisture sensors, and it's connected to the Sentinel satellite. So it kind of, if you download the app, then when the satellite passes above, then the installation will start in your computer. And it's very much about engaging people with the importance of soil, but also with just these invisible kind of agents like earthworms, for example, that activate this environment. I know the bell is going to ring, so I don't have much time, so I'm just going to share this, which is some of the great people that we've been working with. These are some partners from, of course, the UK, but also internationally, like Mozilla, for example. And if you want to talk to us about our work, or how we might collaborate or work together, please come and find us later. My colleague Andy is here as well, and Tom, and Naho, of course, the artist from the installation is around there. So come and see our installation at the Brass Park Square, opposite the Convention Center. And thank you very much.
Thanks, Irene. The bell continues to be disappointingly unused. But the issues that provoke future everything, how we interact with cities, how we interact with data, how we interact with architecture, are also the kind of preoccupations of our next speaker. So, can I invite up Dan? Where have you gone, Dan? Dan from Rascal.
Hi, thanks a lot. We do get involved with tech art a lot, but we work in the presentation of art and our concept. So we're a small multi-disc design and fabrication company. We set up initially as architectural design and industrial design, and that was 15 years ago. More recently, in the last couple of years, we've been really getting involved more with working with artists. We find it a much more rewarding process. And on the right project, it can be, every project that we do now is a huge step to a bigger market, which is great. So I just thought I'd talk a little bit about two projects which are at each end of the scale of where we work. A smaller art project, which is Naho Matsuda's Everything Every Time that we're supporting this week, and a bigger large-scale project which shows you the kind of range of the kind of things we work on. So this is the version of Everything Every Time that we did in Newcastle with Naho. It was the first prototype of how we can develop a custom-made split-flap display that has the graphic front end that Naho developed, as well as the technical functionality that was required with this. So we basically built every component down to circuit boards, the flaps themselves. The only things we bought in for this were motors and some of the circuit boards, Arduinos and Raspberry Pis and that sort of thing. So each letter is a stepper motor with 50 flaps that are attached around that to the drum. These are controlled from a master Raspberry Pi, which takes the poetry that Naho generates from her API and website, pulls it down onto the master Pi, and then the poetry is fed to each individual letter, which then goes to an address on the stepper motor. Into this, you have to build reliability and how to cope with physical effects and activities, heat and motor slippage and things. So it's quite a sophisticated thing that was built almost on the fly, very quickly, reacting really quickly to receiving the go-ahead for a project and making this thing happen in quite a short space of time. The flaps themselves are printed on a sheet of plastic, which is then laser cut into the individual flaps, and we handle all that process as well. And on the left here, you can see some of the custom-made circuit boards that we produced for this, and then kind of getting the thing assembled in rows, and it starts to become, you know, a multi-line text system. So at the other end of the scale in terms of size, we've got a project called Polly, which we produced for Charles Holland. He's an architect who also works with a lot of artists who've done a few projects with Grayson Perry over the years, and he has a colourful aesthetic, which is definitely seems to become, it looks like it's becoming a theme of a lot of the stuff that we work on. It is very colourful and bright and very attention-grabbing. So this is in Fountains Abbey, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. There are a lot of challenges for us to overcome, which is part of our value, is acting as a partner to kind of identify some of the risks and engineering problems that you're going to have delivering your artwork to some pretty unusual sites. So this is actually built only 200 millimeters on top of some valued archaeological artifacts that were underground. So we had to design a system that was self-supporting at that height. This thing is 7.5 meters tall. That wouldn't compress the ground and damage the archaeology underneath, which was a bit of an interesting engineering challenge. To get a sense of the scale of the thing, here's Polly's head next to Brad, our workshop manager. It's pretty huge. And so, I should have said, Polly is a camera obscura, so there's a lens in the head and a rotating mechanism, which is all designed and made by us in-house. These are laser cut steel components. So from within, in the dark interior volume, you can turn a handle, Polly's head rotates, and then casts a view of the countryside down onto a table, which is in the middle of this structure. The feathers are made using CNC cut plywood components, which we make in-house. And then all the engineering, we do all the design work. We figure out all the problems before going to an engineer, because I don't know if any of you have ever dealt with having to involve an engineer in your creative process to get a project delivered and on site. They look at the silhouette of your thing, design all of the fun out of it, make it look really boring. I'll go in a second, and we basically make it happen without losing the spirit of the project. That's our main remit. Thanks.
Thanks, Dan. I think it's always difficult to actually describe real things that you actually make. It takes a bit more complex sometimes. But we're now, so from real things and real kind of architectural interventions, we're now going to move to unreal things, impossible objects, impossible buildings, and the Infinite Hotel. So to tell us about that, we've got Kevin Beamers from Italic Pig.
All right, yeah, I don't know how to make real things. I only know how to make games, fun. We make toys for people with disposable income. Right, so I know I don't sound like I'm from the UK, but I'm originally from Canada. I moved to Belfast 12 years ago, and I've been making video games for about 8 of those years. What we're working on at the moment is a game called The Infinite Hotel. That's one among many, but I'm going to ask you a question first, or answer one. Here's what sucks about VR. The problem is we have a technology that is open, and it's huge, and it's immersive, and it's boundless, and we can make stuff like that, and we have to play with it in a space like that. And everybody's like, oh, look it, we're inside the world, but we're not really, because we know if we take 3 steps to one side or another, we're going to run into the piano. So, how do we offer the feeling of boundless exploration that an immersive game deserves without leaving the room? And the answer that we came up with is we go up. So I'm going to show you a trailer of what we've been up to in the past year's worth of development.
An infinite star rating on TripAdvisor. I'm sure you're staying with us will be... Hey, what are you doing out here? Is this what I pay you for? Huh? Standing around looking at the scenery? Get back to work! Take Miss Crenshaw to the 11 million floor. Have a lovely stay with us, Miss Crenshaw.
Right. Now, we're at demo stage. We did a bit of a demo yesterday at an Immersed in NI event. We are going to be also showing this off at GDC next week in San Francisco. But yes, this grand scale adventure in room scale space, what we wanted was to make something that was huge and had that feeling like, old style adventure games, a lot of narrative, a lot of story, a lot of characters, but knowing that you can't actually leave the room, we put you in the room and we make the room move around. So you're the elevator operator in a hotel with an infinite number of floors. It's an interdimensional hotel. A lot of the mechanics are still real world, room scale type stuff, but what happens is what's outside the door is what keeps changing. These amazing infinite hallways and things like that we've built. We've created quite a bit of the stuff to get us all the way here to demo stage. I'm not going to go through each of those pieces, but what we've got is what we call the playground. It's an area with a lot of running around. You can do mini missions. We have social engagement strategies and all that sort of thing, and a crazy talented team. We've also got the backing of Creative Europe. They did a large part of the funding of this. Northern Ireland Screen did the other large part of the funding of this. And behind us, we've also got the Big Indie Pitch, which we won that back in January. It was the only VR game out of 24 PC games. It ended up winning, and we're Best in Play winner of GDC. What we're after is continued, we want to continue this game. We've got something that's in a good space, but we want to move this forward on until we have completed the story that we set out to write. It's an amazing piece of narrative. It's very, it's interdimensional, it's metaphysical, it covers a lot of base, and it's really funny. So what we're looking for is to just push the boundaries of what VR narrative can do, because I believe that most VR narrative is sticking itself in either the auto-run space, the teleportation space, or the there's a murder that happened in this room, don't leave the room space. And we want to make it bigger than that, because it deserves to be. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.
Really exciting, and that definitely was a pitch. Actually, that was not a lightning talk, that was a pitch, thank you. I mentioned Audience of the Future earlier on, so we've got these big demonstrators, and we've also just completed a competition for projects that are trying to make the creation of immersive content more efficient, faster, cheaper, more accessible. Production, innovation, immersive content, we called it, not very imaginatively. One of the winners of that competition is our next speaker. So Ian Hamilton from Maze Theory, who some of you have hopefully done the Weeping Angels thing and screeched and squealed to the amusement of your colleagues. So Ian's neither going to confirm or deny anything about what this project entails.
I will tell you a little bit. So I'm Ian Hamilton, I'm the CEO of Maze Theory. We're a VR experience studio in London, founded by some sort of industry veterans from PlayStation and the founder of Activision. And then myself and Marcus, who are the sort of outsiders in gaming. And we have this thing to say we're on a mission to conquer the boundaries of virtual imagination. We're all about evolutionary storytelling, letting players sort of through narrative storytelling go to new places and new worlds, and we're sort of massively passionate about VR. We see it in the middle of this wonderful triangle between cinematic, film and TV, immersive theatre, which we're hugely passionate about, and gaming, and it's something you can only get in VR. So a lot of the games that we're making are about being in the episode and being part of the story, and allowing players to be empowered and emboldened in these adventures. So the project we won with Audience of the Future is AI narrative characters in VR. That's basically non-player agents, the gamers call it, but essentially characters that you come across that will deal with you in much more human ways, in some of the ways illustrated here. And immersive is such an overused word, but we sort of see AI and AI characters as being a next level of immersion in VR. At first you had sort of goggles and vision and sound and all, and then we got touch. And we believe AI is going to take you on a whole different journey. So you can imagine having interactions with people that respond to your gestures and body language and movements, even when you're looking. And what will happen is you get just much more realistic human responses in the adventures you go on. The next film is like a short extract from the bid that we did, which tells you a little bit about the project and also some of the people involved.
Whilst developing the London Heist for PlayStation VR Worlds, I explored the use of virtual actors and allowed players some simple interactions. These were immensely compelling and very immersive for players.
We're going to be able to have characters that really reproduce the kind of body language and social signals that we humans use to interact with each other.
This project will really allow lots of people like independent artists or researchers to be able to create realistic and responsive virtual characters without having to go through lots of huge technical barrier.
The idea of having conversational interaction with a digital human in VR has an enormous amount of value.
Better interaction with characters is one of the key components that's going to make virtual reality to a massive degree.
And the last line from Marco really is quite important, I think. You will get something new in VR that you will not be able to get in anything else. This is a really simple sort of illustration of the new technology we're making. So on the left, you've got the existing technology, which basically uses quite analog sort of triggers to trigger scripts, so that the players that you play with respond in quite broad brush sort of ways. It pulls on a state machine for the answers, but it's very linear, it's very simple. But on the right, what we're going to be doing with machine learning and using body gestures, language, voice, all of those things can work with the AI that we're building, and therefore you get much more finely grained NPA responses, and I think it's just going to change and transform interactions in VR games. And this just finally is a little bit, it's actually a bit of a sneak preview of the sort of games we may be launching this year. Yeah, you know, these are the things we're really hoping to achieve. Deeper emotional connections with sort of characters that you play with, and we just think it's going to be incredible. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Ian. Maybe in the next couple of weeks, actually, Ian will be able to say something particularly about the context in which they're going to explore this, which is really exciting in terms of working with a really exciting narrative IP. So one of the parts of my job is to try and develop better relationships between university academic researchers, STEM researchers, whether they're from computer science or whether they're from the arts and humanities, and companies. And that's a big part of two of the programs, both Audience of the Future and the Creative Clusters program, where we set up some big university industry partnerships around the UK that are funded for the next 5 years. But a kind of key thing that brings them together with all these efforts to develop and adopt immersive technologies within our creative sectors is a new institution that we set up, which is, again, unglamorously known to us as the National Centre for Immersive Storytelling, but is known to them as the Story Futures Academy. And so I'd like to welcome Amanda Murphy to the stage, who is the exec producer of Story Futures Academy, which is dedicated towards retooling our whole industry in terms of skills to use these technologies.
Just a small addition. So I'm Amanda Murphy. I'm the executive producer, as Andrew says, of the Nationals. It's the UK's new Centre of Excellence in Immersive Storytelling, which is clearly a great new mouthful, so we renamed it the Story Futures Academy to make it slightly more manageable. And I guess we're here because we're a 3-year programme, and we're really open to sort of sharing more of our knowledge over the 3 years, and collaborating really openly as well with some technologists, co-creators, and inviting kind of match funders into our programme. So who are we and what do we do? We're quite a unique partnership between Royal Holloway University of London, which is a kind of prestigious research-led university, and the National Film and Television School, which is the UK's leading kind of training school. And we also have an array of quite incredible partners who joined us, partners and supporters, both from the tech side. So these are all creative companies on the tech side. You see Sony Interactive, Magic Leap, for example, but also lots of content creators like Soul, Rogers Company Rewind, Factory 42, John, who was speaking earlier, BBC Studios, etc. Excuse me. Innovative storytelling is very much at the heart of what we're trying to do, and unashamedly kind of growing immersive in the UK, or immersive storytelling in the UK. So the way of doing that is we feel that the way of moving the needle along in immersive storytelling is to kind of to leverage our access to talent, top talent in the film, television and games industries, so cinematographers, writers, directors, those storytellers who have actually got that sort of experience, and putting them over into the immersive space. I keep saying immersive, AR, VR is what we're mostly talking about. So they can bring with them all of that talent, all of that knowledge, and for cross-sector learning across in the immersive space.
We're aware that it's quite a big bridge to cross, hence the Grand Canyon in the middle. We're hoping it's not really the Grand Canyon, but to kind of, make it possible, we're developing quite a complex, structured sort of series of cutting-edge training models. There's labs, workshops, and boot camps, and they're there to carve new pathways really from, so to start with exploring immersive, so looking at kind of literacy, the very difficult kind of beginnings of, how do things work in immersive. There's totally new toolboxes, there's different grammar, even what is VR, what is XR, what's AR, we're addressing all those sorts of things. Moving through to experimenting, there's lots of work going on, for example, in exploring how do you tell stories in VR. And in fact, what's the value, why do it in VR? What formats, what episodes look in VR? And adopting new toolboxes, and ultimately creating prototypes in a de-risked environment. That's the whole idea. So coming out the other side of it is a whole new array of very innovative sort of productions. It's clearly an enormous skills challenge. We're really aware that little is known about kind of what is the skills needed in immersive. In fact, little has been done to actually identify skills gaps and needs. So we're just launching, in fact, literally tomorrow, hot off the press, a big skills audit across all sectors, including immersive. It's the first ever time we're working with all the UK trade bodies, so it's Immerse UK, PACT, UK and UK Screen Alliance, with a big skills survey to try to look at kind of where, how can you bring these skills across to immersive? What are the gaps and kind of how can we do that skills mapping? Part of the experiment also is about bringing some of those skilled, talented, seasoned storytellers across onto production. So we've launched a pilot, we've got a number of placements that are paid. We've launched a pilot with Rewind, the content creation agency, who are taking our first TV creative director, who's going to go and work on an immersive production coming up shortly, 2 weeks' time. So hopefully both Rewind, the Rewind team are here, and ourselves will be sharing, how that works out. What do they learn from each other? We also have a co-funding, a co-production funding pot. So we're looking at, again, it's about innovation and storytelling, looking at innovative projects, and also looking for match funding. So we funded actually down Emerson of VR Cities was our first funding, and Rebecca talked earlier about how it's actually been nominated for Rebecca, so we're very proud of that. And actually Darren was exploring, he was looking at how do you make archive work in immersive or in a VR piece. We're also, we're talking to Magic Leap, we're talking to BBC Studios, the Arts Council about other productions that we might co-fund. So we'd be quite interested to see if anybody here would like to get involved in that part of our work. So what the Academy sort of brings to the production pot really, or brings to the table, is audience research and insight, and our research teams who obviously can help on these productions. So please come and talk to us. We'll be around later. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Amanda. Story Features Academy is a really, really exciting opportunity, I think, and whilst it's been set up within a UK context, I think the potential for the Academy to collaborate with partners outside the UK is really, really exciting. So there's, you've probably got a sense that there's quite a few interactions between the different players in the room, building on the UK's traditional strengths. But one, I think possibly, and I'm sure that we're going to hear about this, possibly the most disruptive thing that we're doing, actually, and certainly I think the most surprising if you were a UK government minister to find that you funded this, is a very, very large demonstrator around changing the nature of sports broadcasting, but not in traditional sports, but by starting with esports. So Weaver is a very big partnership that is going to be impinging on the esports audiences very, very soon, and James Dean from ESL Limited is here to talk about it.
I don't want the bell, so I'm going to ignore the niceties of this. I'm James Dean, I'm the Managing Director of ESL UK. I'm very excited to be at South by Southwest, first time, met amazing people. So Weaver really is our vision of reimagining the way we broadcast sports. And I'd like to take you on a journey. I'm how we envisage that. So imagine an experience of live sports in which you can teleport from your living room into the stadium, fly around the pitch, and assume your favourite player's perspective. Imagine the experience seamlessly blending virtual and physical worlds, stretching across coffee tables, walls, TV screens, and mobile devices. Imagine commentary that is tailored to your interests, visualizations and statistics that give you personalized insights into strategy and performance that you never had before. Imagine a coach next to you who explains to you how you could improve your own gameplay. And imagine this experience together with friends around the globe, sharing your own insights and reactions with the world. So esports, we believe, is truly leading the way in that respect. Last year alone, it was watched over by 380 million people. And it's an audience that are ever more hungry for more depth of experience. And you see, in esports, because the entire competition takes place in that virtual world, it enables us to create never-seen-before immersive experiences that mix virtual worlds, live data, and storytelling. The esports audience, of course, are very tech-savvy, they're early adopters, and linear one-for-all content, surprise, surprise, is no longer sufficient to engage that rapidly evolving millennial, Gen Z, and audience beyond. They demand a very personalised and interactive proposition. And this is exactly what Weaver will demonstrate over the next 2 years, really pioneering new experiences which allow for IP owners and content creators to monetize and engage in very new, innovative ways.
Audiences of the future will want to shape their viewing experiences. The narratives, the focus, the interactions. They won't just watch content, they'll live it, create it, and share it. With Weaver, the audience of the future is here, now.
So, how are we going to achieve this? First of all, we want to use cutting-edge VR and AR technology, lots of hardware, mobile phones, TVs, secondary displays, etc. And with Weaver, we'll create true cross-reality experience that travels with and adapts to how the individual viewers strive to engage with that content. We'll also create cognitive immersion through interactive live statistics, highlight recaps, and really helping audiences to understand sophisticated strategies and professional performance. And last but not least, we'll place social interaction right at the heart of that audience experience, seamlessly integrating consumption, creation, and sharing of that content. And most importantly, we're going to wrap around that immersion tailored individual fan experiences which adapts to the different devices, realities, interests, and requirements of that user. And the challenge is that generally the current workflows and tools that are available today simply don't allow us to create those real-time experiences. So, led by ESL, we have a very unique consortium which combines world leaders in AI and data-driven storytelling, XR experience design, Live 360 video production, virtual studio production, and data analytics. It's a £5.8 million 2-year demonstrator project, of which £4 million has been awarded by UKRI through the Industrial Strategy Challenge Fund. So, how would we like you to get involved? Well, first of all, we're looking for lots of really interesting tech and IP partners to collaborate with over these next 2 years and beyond. We're looking already for the way we can seek investment so we can continue development post those 2 years. And of course, we're looking for some very smart minds. So that's a bit of an invitation. We are hiring. We've got 40 plus more positions to fill. So I'd like to invite you to check our website out. It's a bit of a holding site with a press release, etc., but some contact information. And I've got 9 seconds left, so no bell. Thanks very much.
Thanks, James, and thanks also, because it turns out that if you have the Chief Executive of Europe's leading esports events company with you, it's also absolutely brilliant at wiring microphones, getting soundboards to work. We can't go anywhere without him now. one of the UK's, I think, certainly from my perspective, one of the UK's most kind of highly regarded creative teams within this kind of crossover of creative disciplines. You know, where projection, live projection, performance, theatre meets is 59 Productions. So we're very lucky to have them here to talk about where they're at in terms of bringing that theatrical and performance tradition together in this immersive world. So that's Mark Grimmer and Lysandra Ashton.
My name is Mark Grimmer. I'm one of the directors of 59 Productions, and this is one of my fellow directors, Lysandra Ashton. 59 Productions is a Tony and Olivier Award-winning design studio and production company based in London. We have a small office also in New York. Our background is in theatrical design. Warhorse here that we made with the National Theatre in 2007. Our specific area of interest started out as animation and projection design for live performance, and we've worked on a range of projects and a range of different locations. We've expanded over the course of the last 10 or 12 years, and we now employ a team of 35 people that includes architects, animators, designers, writers, technologists. We've expanded not just in terms of numbers, but in terms of scope as well. So we now design and get involved in the production of far more than just theatrical projects. And yeah, a theatrical approach really is at the heart of all of the work that we do. But we've sought new opportunities to apply that theatrical approach to new areas and to reach new audiences. One example here, we're the lead designers and creative directors of the David Bowie exhibition for the V&A. A project which, whilst museum-based, really did seek to blur the lines between theatre, exhibition, interactive and architectural design. The strength of our approach, and perhaps the unique thing about us, is that we have a huge range of skills and disciplines that we've brought in-house. In the project that's illustrated here for the Tycho Brahe Planetarium in Copenhagen, we provided architectural design, audiovisual design, lighting, sound and interactive design to create an almost entirely digital museum experience, and one that felt, we hope, cohesive as a result of the fact that we were able to control all of the disparate elements of that experience. We also work a lot with architectural projection mapping, but really from exhibition design to architectural projects such as this, from arena scale shows such as the opening ceremony of the London 2012 Olympics. The 59 Productions team combines art and technology to tell amazing stories, and that focus on storytelling really is key to us. We're not really interested in spectacle for spectacle's sake, we're interested in different ways of telling stories for audiences.
And alongside the real world work, we also do quite a lot of VR work, which has been selected for Cannes, Sundance, Venice, and as well as drama pieces, we've also been working on documentary, like this piece commissioned by Channel 4. And this year at South by Southwest, we're presenting Nothing to be Written at the VR Cinema, so come on to the Marriott over the next 3 days.
Just a short show reel here to show some of our recent projects.
So in 2017, we made a theatre show called City of Glass, which used architectural projection mapping to reimagine the concept of set design. In this new hybrid approach, every inch of the physical set, including the props, was mapped with projection, allowing us to seamlessly transition between scenes and locations. And as it was inspired by a film noir story, we're able to do things which I've never seen on stage, of cinematic cuts between locations. combining sleight of hand magic with totally switching the environment. So, what next? We want to continue to explore the ways in which technology and art come together to tell amazing stories. One area I'm particularly excited by is the combination of MR technology, and we're focusing on Magic Leap at the moment, with architectural design, projection mapping, and live performance to create a new kind of immersive theatrical work. For us, it's about bringing together all of the things that we've been working on before, but together into one piece.
So who do you want to talk to? Well, people who can help us make new projects in the last 5 seconds. Commissioners, artistic institutions, funders, commercial partners, hardware and tech partners. We're looking for new opportunities to collaborate to tell new stories, so come and speak to us afterwards.
It's interesting that I think one of the things that we found through the various programs that we've been running in terms of research and innovation and research and development is how central theatre practice has become to a lot of the projects, even if they start off from another background, whether they start off from a games aesthetic or a screen aesthetic. Theatre practice somehow finds its way into all of these projects. Perhaps, I don't know, is it because they can tell stories in space, not just in time, like all of those who worked in film and television? The interesting thing about that is, how do you then, as 59 do, take those things forward into changing the nature of live performance itself? So the third of our big demonstrator projects that we've announced so far, there is one more to come probably in the next 5 weeks that we will announce, is one which is trying to do exactly that, which is trying to form a collaboration between different organisations across the performance sector to work out how these technologies can change the nature of performance and lift the whole sector in the UK. And we're very happy that Sarah Ellis, Director of Digital Development, I was getting that wrong, for the Royal Shakespeare Company, can come and tell us what they're up to.
Everyone. I have to say I absolutely adore 59 Productions work, so if you ever get a chance to see it, do. It's fabulous. So I'm Sarah, I'm from the Royal Shakespeare Company, and I'm the Director of Digital Development. We never had one before this role occurred. I've been probably working in the space for the last 10 years. Everything I've done has been in collaboration. I've never done it alone. You will never make a piece of theatre on your own. And to quote another wonderful UK cultural icon, always working with people that believe that tomorrow belongs to those who see it coming. People that take risk, people that imagine, people that don't quite know the answer yet, people that are brave enough to say they don't know, and formidable enough to put their names out there and try something different. And at the Royal Shakespeare Company, our playwright and our writer-in-residence has been doing this for a long time, 400 years. And in 2016, it was the 400th anniversary of his death. And in that moment, we decided to do something massively ambitious, because why not? And we looked at his last play, which is arguably one of his most innovative plays, called The Tempest. And this has inspired us to do what we're doing now with Audience of the Future and bring that into a collaborative environment. This is Mark Courtley. He's an actor, a glorious actor, that for the first time brought a digital avatar live, performing real time with actors on stage looking like that. And this is his avatar. Beautiful. Only can happen in theatre, only achieved in theatre, using virtual reality as a craft of making theatre that has been happening for centuries, turning the stage into the headset. Every part of that technology pipeline you could do in a headset, but we chose the really difficult option of projection mapping the entire stage and using moving mosquito net and 40-foot moving surfaces. But that's taken us into the space of volumetric capture, a completely new form for us, in how we captured the beautiful Rob Gilbert this year in partnership with Magic Leap, looking at the stages that are elsewhere. And bringing in collaborations now with audiences of the future, not just looking at theatre, knowing the superpower of theatre, looking at live performance through the Philharmonia, looking at festival with Manchester International Festival, looking at digital native work through Marshmallow Laser Feast and the glorious Punch Drunk to help us look at how we turn our stages where we reach potentially 150,000 people in a run to a Snapchat filter where we reach 7.5 million people in one day. What do you do with that? How do you scale that? How do you look at that creatively, and how does theatre and live performance occupy that space and hold that space? And how do we work with the people we don't yet know? How do we work with the engineers that will allow us to give us the structure and the framework for artists to really shine in this? And how do we extend the craft of theatre making? How do we extend that toolkit? By working with people like Unreal that are massively seamless in their experiences, with Intel, with Magic Leap, but not only that, research organisations. In this audience of the future, what we're able to do for the first time at the RSC is synchronistically work with evidence and data-led and practice-led universities such as Goldsmiths, I2 Media, the University of Portsmouth and Montfort University, to allow this stage to occupy their imagination and for us to reimagine what the future looks like, not just in Stratford, but across all these different brilliant, wonderful arts organisations that are going to be reclaiming their spaces, creating work for themselves. We're looking for investment, we're looking for collaborators, we're looking for people that want to come with us and do something amazing. Know we can do it together, know we can do it on a global scale. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sarah. So you see, we've got a huge range of really, really exciting projects. By this time next year, it sounds like, we hope that with the Arts Council, continuing our partnership with the Arts Council, we'll be able to bring some of those projects. We'll be able to experience some prototypes. Some of the projects will be getting frighteningly close to actually public debut in the summer of next year. But at the same time as having those big projects, I think it's really, really important that for us as a research funding agency, that we also support the kind of inquiry-led research. So we have a front end to this pipeline, whether it's inquiry-led research through practitioners or inquiry-led research in the academic space, and we've got several of those. We ran a program a while back which was particularly directed at trying to support that kind of research. And so I'm delighted that our final talk, our finally spotted by Elliot Don, our final one of these lightning talks is Elliot Hall from the King's Digital Lab to tell us about what was one of the most intriguing, exciting, slightly peculiar projects that came out of that, which is digital ghost hunt.
Hello, I'm Elliot Hall. I'm a senior research software engineer at King's Digital Lab at King's College London, and I'm wearing this lab coat for a very good reason. In combination with Tom Botel, who runs Kid Theatre, we've created a theatre piece that is a mixture of coding education, AR, and immersive theatre called the Digital Ghost Hunt. Now, because I wasn't allowed to bring the haunted building nor the ghost that haunts it across the Atlantic, I'm afraid most of this is going to be a video, which is why they put me on last.
It's haunted.
It's kind of better with that.
James, how did you get this live? So this is where you call the man who runs the esports event.
Just to know, this is happening during the ghost presentation.
Sorry. Do you think there's a ghost in the machine?
Maybe change the display to duplicate.
You're going to have to carry on talking. Have you paused the time? I've paused it.
It's kind of an injury time situation.
Yeah, they're all going for it.
So this is the device we use called the Seat Ghost Detector. It's mostly a Raspberry Pi and a mobile phone charger and a microbit that I banged together into a 3D printed shell. And we basically took over a year 5 class. So these are 10 to 11-year-olds, if you're not familiar with the way the UK education system works. We busted into their class and turned them into apprentice ghost hunters because being adults, our degraded senses could not pick up ghosts, and we needed the help of 10-year-olds to see what was happening. And so for the next 3 weeks or so, we took them on a very simple coding education, more to unlock the imaginative possibilities of coding. And then I will explain that a little later.
I'm so glad you're all here.
The digital ghost hunt begins when Deputy Undersecretary Quill from the Government Ministry of Real Paranormal Hygiene bursts into a normal school day. She explains that she has a particularly knotty ghost problem that needs to be solved. So over the next few weeks, under tutelage through videos from the great Professor Bray, pupils learn how to program their very own Seek ghost detecting devices, which use a whole range of different coding techniques designed by Elliot. So we developed a program of 3 key coding lessons inspired by the existing coding curriculum that teachers themselves delivered in the classroom, and ended with each pupil having designed their own little bit of code that could then be embedded into the ghost detecting device. And then we came here for the grand finale. We both brought a shared ambition to create this feeling of play around learning, and particularly focusing on coding as something that shouldn't be dry and abstract, but to have context and to lead to adventurous, exciting outcomes.
As luck would have it, the Arts and Humanities Research Council and the Engineering and Physical Science Research Council became interested in immersive experiences and how we might work with creative industries to further not only these new kinds of experiences, but how they might be studied, because that's still an emerging field in itself. So it was kind of the perfect time for this partnership.
What's that?
The way that we designed the experience, and especially around the devices, is we wanted the devices to be a means with which they could explore the world around them. Not a way for the world to be explained to them or to spoon feed them any facts. We wanted to give them the tools to create their own imaginative world and share it with them.
You never know if a show's worked until you drop the young people in it. So that first moment when the ghost's name was spoken and the lights dimmed and they all screamed and clung onto each other. And you thought, yeah, we pitched this right and they care about this world. One of our ambitions is to use this adventure to engage young people with their coding education, to show them that coding doesn't just have to be abstract, that they can actually code and develop a ghost detector, then come here and use it to track down ghosts.
Even when the devices weren't functioning, we found that it anchored them in the world around them because we've, in a physical way, given them an explicit kind of agency. It wasn't a passive experience like a school trip where there was light around, here's some things. We said, we need your help. Here's how you're going to help us. Now let's go.
I think for future iterations, we're interested in getting them to actually personalise their detectors even more, so that it really does become their bit of kit and they know how it works.
There were a few students I heard saying in the jam, so I built that. I built that, which was lovely. I was really happy to hear that.
Thankfully, due to follow-on funding, we are going to be doing a new show in York sometime in the summer with Pilot Theater. We've seen from Trader VR, we're working with them to develop a family show that we can have family ghost hunting going together. And from there, we want to move into education and creating unique experiences in unique buildings, using the building's own memory, which is what we do with the Battersea Arts Centre, to tell a story. And I'm really passionate about the idea that coding should be a tool of the imagination, and that we can use it to engage audiences, especially audiences like girls who don't feel it's for them. And I'd like to talk to anyone about that. I'm over there, I have stickers. Thank you.
Thanks everybody. Thanks to all our fantastic speakers. We have demos. Please go talk to the people that you've heard from. Try out some of the things. See if either the ghost hunt or the weeping angels can frighten you, because that's always a good way to work up a thirst. And please have a drink on us. Thank you very much.